I want to talk to you a little bit about the most basic strategy for the SAT reading section. And before I actually explain it, I want to explain a little bit about the SAT section itself. The SAT is a standardized test, and what that means is that everyone gets the roughly same test, which is why the same types of questions are very much repeated from one test to another. And the idea is that you should be able to very easily compare people's scores and answers. And what that means is that to every question, there's one and only one justifiable answer. There's no room for arguing or anything like that. And what that means is that on the reading section, for example, there's not to be any inference or interpretation, because as soon as you open up something to interpretation, like, what do you think this poem means or something like that, people can have different, I guess you could say, opinions about it. And at that point, it's very hard to differentiate. It's very hard to say that, okay, this one's right and this one's wrong. So on the SAT reading, there's none of that. It is very standardized, straightforward answering of questions. So that leads me to the actual most fundamental strategy. And I just call it finger pointing because it kind of is what it sounds like. When you're answering a question for the reading section, for the most part, unless it's asking, like this word in this context is most similar to, in that case, you won't be able to do it. But for most questions, you want to find an answer that you can justify by just like physically, literally taking your finger and pointing in the text to where you think, or where like that answer lies. So if it asks about, okay, what does this character feel about that? You should be able to go back in the text, find whatever paragraph, and again, just for yourself, physically point to the sentence or phrases that make you believe that this is the answer. And I know this sounds really obvious, but you'd be surprised at how many times we're sort of used to, when we're reading a text, we're really used to automatically starting to make inferences and sort of make judgments about the situation without actually having that read in the text. A lot of times when people are reading, they'll read through, and as they're reading information about a character, they sort of in their mind start creating this image of this character, and they kind of get disconnected from the text because they start creating the image in their mind. You can't do that. You have to go exactly by what the text says, and when you have an answer, justify it to yourself, be able to find the exact line or phrase where you could use that as your proof for your answer. And what you could even do is, maybe if you've taken these practice tests before, if you have a practice test or a practice reading section that you've done, you could even go back to that, and the ones that you got wrong, go back to it and look at the one you got wrong, look at the answer you put, and see if you can actually in the text directly find a phrase or sentence or set of sentences that support your argument or support your answer. And many times once you dig in, you realize, it doesn't actually directly say that, and that's really the key here. So I'm going to give you, or not give you, but show you a few examples of what exactly I mean and how you can use this. And this is really something to master, I think, for the SAT reading, just because once you have this down, you'll be able to really stick with the text, because again, this is a standardized test. Each answer needs to be very justifiable in order to justify, testing a ton of students with this test. So every answer is justifiable by the text. So let me show you exactly how to use this strategy.